This message is brought to you by Deadpool.
Started as an idea. What if we made a Deadpool movie? There was only a few of us back then, and looking back, we had no idea how big it would become. So innocent, and yet the momentum that had started. Yeah, that was not really what we had in mind. Nope, that didn't help things. It was more of a hell no, to be honest. I mean, we eventually stopped asking. But I promise you, I'm looking into it. Well, once the movie got greenlit, I went on a massive coke bender. So that's a little hazy for me. They tell me the movie did well, though. 10 years into it, Phase 1 has exceeded our wildest expectations. You know, if you told me back then that one movie would spawn an expansive 2-movie universe, I'd have said that you were crazy. But here we are, with actual actors, a moderate special effects budget, and several low-level X-Men. None of the big ones, though. We gotta save something for Phase 2.
Welcome back, everyone. Maximum Effort. There's a brand new Deadpool 3 teaser with more footage of Deadpool and Wolverine, with more Easter eggs and references to what's going on in the movie, how this all fits into the rest of the MCU, and the upcoming Avengers movies like Secret Wars, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, there's a bunch of big stuff coming up. They're going to be dropping the full Deadpool 3 trailer at the Super Bowl in a couple weeks. Of course, I'll do videos for it, so be sure to subscribe to the channel to be the first to watch that. They also just started filming Daredevil Born Again, and they brought back pretty much everybody that made the Marvel Netflix series. So like right now is probably one of the best times to be a huge Marvel fan, because they're making some of the best stuff that they're going to be releasing in the next couple of years. Deadpool 3 is just like the next big thing, because that's the next big movie that they're releasing in the next 6 months or so. But the new footage looks like Deadpool and Wolverine when they're stuck on this same world where they wind up meeting the other Deadpool variants like Dogpool, the samurai-looking version of Deadpool. Right now, it seems like they might be on the Void Planet from Loki, and they're just going to say that it's the MCU version of Battle World from the Secret Wars comics, because there are TVA agents in full riot gear walking around behind them in some of these scenes. I don't know if this is going to be Samurai Deadpool from the comics, because he is an actual Marvel comic book character, but fans are calling him that because of his long hair, the man bun, the superior armor. There are just going to be a lot of different Deadpool variants in the movie. We already got a bunch of footage about them, so I did a whole separate video explaining what's going on with those characters. I'll link that below in the description. But it looks like in this scene, the two of them have already battled it out, and Wolverine has at least briefly relented and agreed to help Deadpool, and they're just heading to or leaving the rendezvous with the Deadpool Corps, because Deadpool seems way too happy in this. Like, this scene is meant to pay off the Deadpool 2 post-credit scene where he said that he was going to show up someday and ask him to help him out.
Eventually, you're gonna hang up the claws.
Huh?
But one day, your old pal Wade's gonna ask you to get back in the saddle again. And when he does, say yes.
And Wolverine can't stand him, keeps knocking him down, pushing him away, especially after he starts to ride piggyback. The weird thing, though, is the actual environment that they're in this scene. Like, the grass on the planet seems way nicer than the ground on the Void Planet. The sky is all nice, it's not overcast. I think you have to remember the way they actually treated the scenes here. Like, when they were filming this scene for the Loki series, when they were on the Void Planet, they just tuned it in post-production to make it look really overcast, that really crazy looking sky. And it just wound up affecting the coloration of everything on the planet, making it look ancient, because it was meant to look ancient, because everything had been stuck there from across all of time. Anytime the TVA prunes something from anywhere in the timeline, from millions of years ago to present day, it just immediately winds up on the Void Planet. Even though a lot of the people that get stuck on that planet are variants of really powerful Marvel characters who have really long lifespans, part of the idea is that He Who Remains was using the Alioth creature as a sort of galactic trash compactor because it was capable of consuming entire timelines, not just regular matter, but entire timelines, entire universes. So they prune stuff, send it to the void, and just wait for Alioth to consume it. Kind of like a galactic garbage dump. So in the actual Deadpool 3 movie, this scene probably isn't going to be a bright sunny day. Notice Wolverine still has his full sleeves on the suit, but Hugh Jackman literally just posted a picture publicly to celebrate them finishing filming last week, showing Wolverine without any sleeves. Back in the day, people would have called this a leak, but because social media that the actors post is scrutinized so much, like there's so much planning that goes into stuff like this, even though a lot of Ryan Reynolds' jokey posts seem like they're not planned, they are heavily planned. So usually when stuff like this leaks out, it's because the studio wants it to leak out to drive hype for the movie. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, the Deadpool movie just in general, are just way better at doing that than a lot of other movies. Not just Marvel movies, but all movies. So it actually seems now like at some point during the end of the movie or like the final battle, the sleeves get ripped off his suit and he becomes way more comic book accurate. They also separately released some promo pictures with a look at his helmet in the movie, answering a ton of questions about the rest of his suit. Most of the footage and promo pictures we've seen so far have been Wolverine without the helmet and with sleeves. Like a lot of the X-Men that are going to be cameoing from the classic Marvel X-Men movies and Fantastic Four movies will look more like the versions you saw on X-Men animated series in the classic stuff. So everyone just assumed that at some point Wolverine might lose the sleeves and get the helmet. This just answers a lot of those questions. Even though Wolverine's suit does look closer to the design from X-Men the animated series, it's actually meant to be based on the astonishing X-Men version of his suit, which, funny enough, was from Joss Whedon's run of the X-Men comics, like he created that run. Way before he was disgraced more recently, a lot of people were hoping we'd see something close to that version of the X-Men in the movies. It's a great story if you haven't read it, even though it is kind of awkward now with everything that happened to Joss Whedon in real life. There were even a few things that Marvel has already borrowed from that particular X-Men run in the movies, like Nick Fury's Saber space station during Spider-Man Far From Home in the Marvels movie. That debuted in the Astonishing X-Men. It was called the Sword Space Station, then it was run by Abigail Brand, who was an X-Men-based character with mutant powers. They even wound up using it in a lot of the animated TV series a while ago, too. That was why a lot of people thought that Emilia Clarke would take on an Abigail Brand kind of role in the MCU after Secret Invasion in the Marvels movie, because there was so much Skrull-related stuff happening with that space station. But it actually turns out that Marvel has totally different plans for the character, like they're planning on using her in an Excalibur-like team with Kit Harington's Black Knight, and they'll be kind of like a British version of the Avengers based on Excalibur from the comics, which, big connection here because we're talking about Deadpool, is also kind of an X-Men team. Excalibur is actually based on storylines from X-Men comics, like the original Excalibur team formed during a Professor X storyline. Nightcrawler was a big part of the team. Other big X-Men characters were featured on the team. Deadpool 3 is meant to be the beginning of them doing a lot of core X-Men team stuff in the movies. Eventually, we'll see more of that starting in the main 616 MCU universe. Deadpool 3 is kind of an exception in that it's an MCU movie because the TVA is involved, like there's TVA characters in the background here, but it's mostly a multiverse movie, roping in characters from many different universes, all different versions or different variants of the X-Men Fantastic Four characters from the Fox Marvel movies, sort of meant to be a parody of those movies. Really good example is the 20th Century Fox logo, Wreckage, is in the background while Wolverine is trying to destroy Deadpool. I think that scene is right after they get dumped on the void planted by the TVA. So the whole joke here is that Kevin Feige, quote-unquote, the TVA, has pruned Fox because it was bought by Disney and they're kind of getting rid of the brand, so to speak. There are a couple other things that Ryan Reynolds posted recently, like there was a version of Kidpool here, so there might be a Kidpool in the movie. This could have just been him in real life, though, having a random encounter with like some other kid who's not in the movie who just happened to be dressed like Kidpool playing around. He's posted videos like this all the time, though, with like little kid versions of the X-Men when the first Deadpool movie came out, just promoting that movie. You have to imagine Deadpool 3 being kind of like a version of this, but with adult versions of the characters and the original actors coming back playing versions of their characters. Now that Kelsey Grammer's Beast just came back in that X-Men post-credit scene during the Marvels movie, doesn't this just feel so much more apropos? A lot of you also wondering what's going on with Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, the other original X-Men actors after the events of Deadpool 3. Well, the plan right now is that Deadpool 3 is supposed to end with a moment that immediately sets up Avengers Secret Wars, which is why I think that this Void Planet is going to wind up being MCU Battleworld, and it'll be sort of like a staging point for the events of Secret Wars. Marvel's changed a lot of their plans for the upcoming Avengers movies, particularly Avengers 5 because of what happened with Jonathan Majors. There's been some recasting that's going on. Generally, though, the idea is that by the time we get to Secret Wars in the movies, it'll be more of like a multiverse Avengers situation with Doctor Strange pulling together a bunch of different versions of characters from other universes like the X-Men movies, the Fantastic Four movies, and they'll face whoever winds up being the main villain of that movie. That's how they bring back, say, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and give him scenes with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and a lot of the other characters from those classic movies. And Marvel's plan right now is to use that Secret Wars movie as sort of like an Avengers Endgame for those classic X-Men, Fox, Marvel, Fantastic Four characters in a way that they never got. Marvel will use the movie to do a soft reboot on the MCU just in general, so that going forward, all the movies that take place in the main universe will more closely resemble the 616 universe of the comics, like the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, the Avengers will always have existed on the same planet, and there won't be any kind of weird explanations where the characters don't understand why. They'll probably explain that like a couple characters, like the Avengers characters, some of the multiverse characters, remember the previous version of the universe and that they know there was a reboot that happened, but for the most part, all the characters going forward will just treat whatever the new universe looks like as if it's always been this way. The funny thing about them giving those classic Fantastic Four X-Men characters their own version of Avengers Endgame is that Fox actually tried to do something like that briefly. Like there was going to be a Fantastic Four X-Men crossover movie that was going to be a little bit like what Captain America Civil War wound up being. That idea wound up falling through when Bryan Singer agreed to come back and do X-Men Days of Future Past, and Fox pivoted to Days of Future Past and just the future of the X-Men solo movies because they thought that they would earn more money doing that than doing a big crossover with the Fantastic Four characters. So like, no, we need to focus on the main X-Men movies. You can let me know in the comments if you think they made the wrong call. Like, even though X-Men Days of Future Past was really solid, X-Men Apocalypse, not so much, and X-Men Dark Phoenix, also not so much. There's a bunch of big stuff coming up. Like I said, they're filming Daredevil Born Again right now. We'll probably get some more footage from that soon. So, of course, I'll do more videos as we get more of that. We'll get that full Deadpool 3 trailer in the next couple weeks. Make sure you enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that stuff. Click here for all that new Daredevil Born Again footage, and click here to learn what's going on with Spider-Man 4, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield coming back. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.